Hi there. A tornado is one of the most mysterious and destructive natural phenomena. This is an atmospheric whirlwind that occurs in a thunderstorm. It looks like a funnel cloud, moves at an incredible speed, and is capable of causing catastrophic damage. Today, we'll talk about the most incredible tornadoes in human history. The tragedy occurred in 1969 when the city of Dhaka was part of eastern Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. A tornado hit the northeastern outskirts of the city. As a result, about 660 people died and a total of 4,000 were injured. However, on this day, a second tornado passed through the territory of modern Bangladesh. The second tornado swept through the Omna Upazila Kamila district. These tornadoes were part of one storm system, but after formation they were divided. During the second tornado, 223 people died. The most powerful tornado, which had incredible wind speeds and is listed in the Guinness Book of Records, was recorded in the USA in the town of Wichita Falls, Texas, on April 2, 1958. The maximum wind speed was 280 miles per hour. The town through which the tornado moved was completely destroyed. Houses rose into the air, and some objects were thrown at great distances. The tornado killed 7 people, and 100 were injured. This natural disaster damage totaled $15 million. On May 20, 2013, a devastating tornado swept through the U.S. state of Oklahoma. Moore was hit the hardest, a small town with a population of about 56,000 people. Large sections of the city were almost swept away off the face of the earth. The National Weather Service categorized it as an EF4. Wind speeds reached 166 miles per hour. The tornado lasted for about 40 minutes, moving about 17 miles. As a result of the disaster, 24 people died. More than 230 people were injured. One of the deadliest tornadoes in human history that hit the United States is the Three States tornado, which occurred in 1925. This tornado was rated on the Fujita scale as an F5 and spawned another 8 tornadoes. As the name implies, on March 18, 1925, this tornado hit 3 states at once. The main blow was inflicted on the state of Missouri. Then the hurricane moved to Illinois and completed its deadly march in Indiana. But the states of Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Kansas were also among the victims. As a result, 695 people died, more than 2,000 were injured, and 50,000 people were left without a roof over their heads. The tornado lasted 3.5 hours, and the average speed of the funnel was 60 miles per hour. Over the past decades, mankind has learned how to predict the appearance of tornadoes, build reliable structures for protection, and quickly evacuate in the event of a disaster. But June 2015 demonstrated that despite all the achievements, man is also defenseless against the power of nature. A river cruise ship was taken aback by a terrible tornado, and it caused the lives of 442 passengers. Fortunately, other ships were warned of an approaching tornado and were not harmed. In 1996, a tornado took the lives of many people in the areas of Madarganj and Mirzapur, Bangladesh. Moreover, no preparations and calculations by scientists could have prevented the death of 700 people and the destruction of more than 80,000 houses. The number of injured during this tornado remains unknown, but the death toll makes it the second deadliest tornado in history. It is difficult to find a country that suffers as much from the effects of tornadoes as Bangladesh. Daulatpur Saturia tornado is considered the most deadly and destructive tornado in the history of mankind. Due to the disaster on April 26, 1989, about 1,300 people died in just a few minutes. A giant funnel hit Manikganj, a densely populated area of Bangladesh. For 6 months before the tornado descended, the country was suffering from drought, a factor that scientists believe has contributed to the formation of this tornado. No wonder a tornado, a mile wide, completely destroyed everything in its path. As a result, about 12,000 people were injured, and a total of 80,000 were left homeless. And finally, Hurricane Dorian. September 1, 2019, Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas the hardest and then moved on and skirted the coastline of the U.S. According to the Saffir-Simpson scale, Dorian was assigned a 5, which is the highest category a hurricane can be given. The entire state of Florida was declared to be in a state of emergency prior to the hurricane, which allowed residents to evacuate. Residents of the Bahamas were the first to encounter this powerful storm. The maximum sustained wind speeds of the hurricane were about 185 miles per hour. Do not rush to turn off the video. We have a question for you. What do you think would happen to our planet if all the oceans disappeared? Oceans, the most important life support system of the Earth. The oceans play at least 2 roles in supporting life. First, it absorbs and distributes solar radiation. Without water, the harsh rays of the sun would fry the equator, and the poles would get almost no energy, especially in winter. Fortunately for us, water perfectly absorbs energy, and the oceans regulate the temperatures around the Earth. Currents divert warm tropical waters to the north and south, and cold waters return back to the equator. Thus, there are practically no places on the planet with extreme temperatures at which protein and plant life becomes impossible. Secondly, the oceans support the water cycle in nature. This is evaporation. The formation of clouds and precipitation form precipitation on land. When the water heats up, it evaporates at the equator and becomes clouds. As warm air rises, cold air comes into its place. This process stimulates an even distribution of heat, turning places in which it would be too cold to live into flowering gardens. Therefore, the Mediterranean belt is favorable for life. And for example, in Scotland, there are places warmed by the Gulf Stream where palm trees can be grown. But let's get back to our question. What happens if all the oceans disappear? It is hard to imagine why this could happen, but let's imagine for a second that aliens flew to the Earth and pumped out the entire world ocean in order to replenish their water supplies. Most likely, in place of the dried oceans, for some time, there will be moist soil in the form of mud. This will leave us at least some chance of survival. Otherwise, if the soil is completely dry, giant dust storms will rise, because of which all life will disappear very quickly. The total mass of the oceans is only 0.02% of the weight of the Earth, which means the disappearance of such a volume of water will practically not affect the force of gravity. But it is worth noting that the moon will begin to move away from us a little faster. Let's imagine that the oceans still disappeared, but we still have some water left. There are snowcaps on mountains, lakes, and rivers, which now flow into deep pits where salt water used to be. This is not enough to start a full cycle of water in nature, even if the ice melted at the poles. 68.7% of the world's fresh water is concentrated in glaciers, mainly in Antarctica. Without clouds forming over the ocean, rain will become rare and the planet will turn into a desert, and we will watch how our lakes and water supplies evaporate quickly until they completely run out. It will also cause many accidents at nuclear power plants, the cooling systems of which is based on waters from lakes and artificial reservoirs. Many stations will be destroyed, and radioactive dust will be spread throughout the Earth. However, people will be able to live for a little bit. For some time we will have access to groundwater, and will be able to create underground hydroponic farms. But on the surface of the Earth, all animals will die out, and all the plants will dry out. With increasing temperatures, forests and even solitary plants will begin to ignite. All former oceanic vegetation that was at the bottom of the ocean will also begin to burn. Almost all plants that converted carbon dioxide to oxygen will disappear. Continents will be caught on fire, which will cause tons of carbon dioxide to enter the air. The air will become stuffy and poisonous. The sun will continue to fry the equator, turning it into a hot pan. Greenhouse gases released as a result of global fires will keep the energy of the sun close to the Earth. Differences in temperature due to the change of day and night will create a slight breeze, but the average temperature of the Earth will become close to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, at such temperatures, even the most persistent desert plants cannot exist for a long time. People will have to run. The only hope for mankind will be a place in which the Antarctic ice has remained untouched, which will lead to massive migrations to the southern hemisphere. As the temperatures rise around the globe, the surface of the Earth will cease to be habitable, and all forces will go to collect underground Antarctic ice, where it will not evaporate. Perhaps we will build a stable biosphere underground, but the remoteness of Antarctica will significantly complicate this task. Getting there will be difficult. Survivors will discover vast wastelands, lack of infrastructure and resources. There will be no roads, no buildings, no food. Many will not live to see the end of this project. Few survivors will not be able to settle in underground bunkers. As the world burns, there will be even less oxygen in the atmosphere. All people who remained on the surface will simply disappear. Only small colonies of bacteria hidden underground in hot springs will remain. If the survivors manage to create an underground colony with a complete enclosed cycle of the production of air, water, and food, people will live for some time. The main problem will be the maintenance of all life support systems, which over time will begin to fail due to wear and tear. There will also be a shortage of medicines in an environment with increased radiation. Most likely, at some stage, it will be impossible to repair obsolete equipment due to lack of resources and equipment. This will cause the complete disappearance of people. The Earth will become a huge hot desert, under the sands of which the last memories of humanity will be buried. So, let's appreciate what we have now. What do you think about this? Write in the comments. And that's all for today. Put like if you like this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.